Nick,
do you eat a hot dog like a regular person, or do you put ketchup on it?
No, I eat it like everybody else does, just whole.
Exactly.
Glug it down like a seagull.
There's only one. There's only one way to eat a hot dog.
Yeah, with my ass.
It's not gonna say that.
Oh, wasn't that where the other 8 tacos were supposed to be?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. No, like I said, it's only one way to eat a hot dog, and that's raw dog.
That's what you were going to say?
You said with my ass. It's way worse than mine.
A creepy Gordita bunch. I want the creepy Gordita bunch. Welcome to the show.
Well,
welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Cheesy Gordita Bunch, the official show of the Taco Bell Cult Facebook group. I'm your host, Nick Ortiz, and with me, as always, my co-host, DJ Dill himself, Devin Hanley, and, of course, the crispy chicken tender in this crispy chicken sandwich taco.
Boom.
Jordan Craven's Krenek.
Boom.
What's up, dog?
Just laying in his little bed of Chipotle dreams. Moisturizing and tenderizing the chicken.
Now, on today's show, we are going to be talking. This is actually our first episode of our creepy Gordita bunch. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Happy fall, you guys.
Happy fall.
Happy fall. I'm sorry, I have tears in my eyes. I can't stop laughing about you talking about this fucking hot dog.
The hot dog boofing?
Happy fall. Yes, it's October.
Yep. We are going to talk about some spooky, scary stuff. And before we do that, I think we should talk about, because last week we did report that Big Bell would be releasing the crispy chicken wings. And as of recent reports, that's been canceled.
Horseshit.
Yeah, that has been canceled. That has been canceled by the Facebook mob.
Tell us Nick, what happened? Tell us what happened, bro.
I don't know. Cancel culture got it again. I guess they
dug
up some old tweets from the chicken wings. Said some really fucked up shit about white people.
The chicken wings made some really sleazy passes at some actresses.
Yeah. So they canceled the chicken wings. Whenever we reported on this on our Facebook, some people had come out of the woodwork saying that they're really disappointed that Big Bell would bend to those to the haters. But other people are saying that they're doing this because they want to focus on the crispy chicken sandwiches, and they want to run out of the supply because they want to focus on one item at a time. Ain't buying it. Ain't buying it.
No. And Devin, I know you said earlier that this is so outside the wheelhouse of actually that's perfect. The wheelhouse of Taco Bell. It's so beyond their normal I guess production, or culture, whatever. But the point is, it doesn't you don't feel like it fits, and I get it, but I don't know, man. I feel like if they can do nacho fries, they can fucking do anything. That's how I feel. I mean, to make it if that falls under the category for you, then the only thing they did was like put some seasoning on it, some Taco Bell seasoning. But I think that if they can season up those wings, we got another Taco Bell item on the menu here, a new Taco Bell specialty.
It's really interesting that they would actually come out and say that their intention is to literally just run each item menu into the ground as far as selling them out completely. Like, they will not stop until every chicken nugget has been put between two little flatbreads with Chipotle and bought in packs of 25 by Bell Nation.
I don't know.
Wait, are you saying that it's sad that they're like letting the supplies run out? What do you? I didn't
I'm echoing Nick, and I'm saying nice try, Bell Nation. I think that these items, what their whole philosophy is stating is that they can be lazy and that they can churn out things like this item that we just tried.
But
which I think
this is a great item.
This is a really good item, though. Did you like it, Devin? Overall,
Genuinely.
Listen, I'm never.
That's never a good sign.
I'm never not gonna like. I'm always gonna eat chicken, a little taco, a little flatbread, whatever you want to call it.
But would you glug these?
In Chipotle? I would not glug. No, not glug. They are not gluggable.
I do agree with him on that. I gotta say, I do agree with him on that.
I just think that there are so many things that Taco Bell has done that have made me go like, wow, that's like a really unique, awesome Taco Bell item.
This isn't one of them?
Where this didn't really feel like a Taco Bell item. I feel like you could have gotten this. I feel like I have gotten this at a number of different chicken.
I don't know what this. I don't know what this. This isn't a Taco Bell item stuff is coming from. Like that is such a nebulous term because there are so many things that you wouldn't expect to be Taco Bell items that are Taco Bell items.
That's facts.
Like the cinnamon twists. I wouldn't expect that to be a Taco Bell item, or the any of the potato items, that come in bowls. Why are they serving that at Taco Bell?
Because they have seasoning. They have tacos.
Guess what?
Seasoning.
They have seasoning on those wings.
They have cheese. The wings. Who knows? Once again, the wings are they're out of the ether now. Nobody will ever be able to sit down and analyze that flavor yet. Maybe in the future.
But these are literally coated in tortillas, like the tortilla chip shells. It's covered in it. It's marinated overnight in jalapenos and like cream. You know what I mean? Like it has all the right seasonings. It's literally wrapped in a tortilla with chipotle sauce on it. I just don't understand how it's not a Taco Bell item when it's really made up of so many things.
Is it the tender for you? Is it the tender?
The tender part is a big part of it. I mean, it just
if they took that same little
the
thing.
entire ensemble is just not indicative of Taco Bell's style. I don't think that this item really sums up what we talk about on this show and who they are as a company.
That's so crazy because I think it is the pinnacle.
Yeah,
I'm with Nick. I think this is thinking outside of the bun. This is
while still maintaining identity.
Exactly. You know what I mean? This is, that Live Más mentality like in our hands because that is something you wouldn't expect Taco Bell to do, but they've done it and they've pulled it off so well.
Innovative once again. Well, Bell Nation, I tell you what, chime in.
Yeah, be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, be a part of the conversation. Let us know. How do you feel? What do you think? Say something. Share a little more.
Give them a try.
Does this fit? Yeah. If they have some still in at the one near you, get 25. Whatever.
It might take you a while to chew them and swallow them, but give it a try anyway.
I love these, but Bell Nation, get involved and get involved in the comments.
Yeah,
get involved in.
Follow us on our social media. Look up Cheesy Gordita Bunch. We are on Twitter, Facebook. Instagram. Look at all my links in our bio.
Let's go.
You'll find this everywhere. Let us know what you think. Be a part of the conversation. And I do want to actually just say,
leave us a review.
Leave us a review and
you
follow us
bitches.
On Patreon. Leave us a review and follow us on Patreon for more exclusive content. I know Jordy and I got a show on there called Craven's Box where we talk about some of the best Taco Bell I guess news, that we probably wouldn't cover on here. So check it out and
it's news and hot topics and unique things like individual stuff. There's maybe some special interviews and things like that. I mean, we're gonna have some just bonus content on there and also exclusive stuff.
Yep.
Stuff that you can only get as a Patreon member. So we're gonna hopefully we can put together some badass music soon.
Yep.
And get some tunes going along for that special. So cool.
Now I do want to acknowledge the source for today's episode. And the source is Bad Henry. It's a Bad Henry documentary. It's on Discovery Plus. Originally, it was on Discovery ID. And then I did use an article from stephaniegirl.wordpress.com called The Taco Bell Strangler 27 Years Later. And I used an article on thoughtco.com called Serial Killer Henry Louis Wallace. So those would be the sources for today. And I do want to give a content warning just up front. We are going to be talking about some heavy shit that's going to involve,
maybe some triggering things. If some
like
some
murder,
sensitive stuff. Yeah.
rape, violence against women, violence against children. So content warning up top.
Where will you be when the final bell tolls? You've just finished your millionth chalupa. You are old, tired, depleted, and ready to lie down for that eternal siesta. Wouldn't you want to take one last opportunity to feel like a kid again?
Introducing the Eternal Siesta Value Crunch Box meal from Taco Bell. The final kids meal for millennials exiting the physical world. Are you a believer in the afterlife? All right. Well, make sure to check it out in one of Taco Bell's patented adult-sized coffins, included in every order. No way! Taco Bell coffins are made specifically for the millennial generation, using only the finest Chinese plastics. Taco Bell coffins glow in the dark and come in 5 different colors. Collect all 5. Remind your grieving family and friends that even at your wake or funeral, it's okay to think outside the bun. All Eternal Siesta meal boxes are covered by AARP, so you can eat great, even late.
But let's just jump right on in. Bell Nation, we're going to be talking about Charlotte, North Carolina's most prolific and often believed to be the first African-American serial killer, Henry Louis Wallace, a.k.a. the Taco Bell Strangler.
He's the first.
A.k.a. the Charlotte Strangler.
Wow. I did not know that. Because,
that's
usually,
a white people game.
That's some white people shit.
That's a white people game.
It is what it is, I mean, I'm a lot of you, some of you may not know, 55% white. That's me.
Like Barack.
My homie. Also left-handed. That's my guy.
Now, he's known as the Taco Bell Strangler because more than half of his victims were Taco Bell employees. And he was also the manager of a Taco Bell on North Sharon Amity in Charlotte. And I looked up that Taco Bell, and it has some really bad reviews.
Oh, so shocker.
yeah, it has some really fucking terrible.
The manager is such a jerk. He just he keeps following us in the parking lot and jumping into girls' cars, and he's just a jerk.
No. Henry Louis Wallace was active as a serial killer between 1990 and 1994 on East Charlotte. Before we dive in, we should talk about the term less than dead and what less than dead means. Now, the term less than dead refers to people whose deaths go largely uninvestigated because of their class, their race, or their sexuality. Statistically speaking, attacks on upper-class white victims tend to be solved sooner or have more resources put into them to, again, so those crimes can be solved. A good example is lately, what's her name, Gabby Petito? The woman who went missing in Wyoming?
Yeah, and her boyfriend thing.
Yeah, a bunch of resources poured into there, but then you look at Wyoming, and there are hundreds of indigenous women, that have gone missing, and nil resources have been put, in solving them. And we're not saying that they don't deserve, that Gabby Petito doesn't deserve to be investigated and put resource.
Yeah, to the highest extent.
We just think all of it should happen. You know what I mean? Like all of the indigenous women, all of the black women who have gone missing, they should all be treated equally. And that's kind of where, that systemic racism that's kind of ingrained in America just kind of really shows itself.
Once again.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty amazing that, we've been doing this show for over a year now, and only in the past couple of weeks have we been really like doing research and finding out about this guy. I feel like for the longest time it kind of went like under the radar. Like, you know, in the kind of modern era where there's so much true crime stuff, you know, there's just there's like a 2020 or a Dateline made up about so many different cases. It's really weird, and kind of to your point that you were just making, Nick, that this one really, really went below the radar, especially when you say that was the most prolific killer in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, that's a big city.
Oh, yeah. It's like number 15. Like on the largest cities in America.
Yeah, Charlotte's
like,
decent size for sure.
Yeah, and it's only growing. Now,
Thanks.
Let's talk about the Taco Bell Strangler. Now, born in Barnwell, South Carolina on November 4th, 1965, Henry Louis Wallace was the son of a teacher and a textile worker named Lottie Mae Wallace. His father left his mother as soon as he found out she was pregnant. And absent of a father figure, Wallace was really only raised with his older sister, his mother, and his great-grandmother. Their home was pretty run down. It had no electricity, no like plumbing, no running water, anything like that. And Lottie was known to be really harsh disciplinarian on Henry, really critiquing him on even like the smallest of mistakes.
So now, that's that right there. Those are both huge signifiers of serial killers right off the bat, right? Like a no father figure and like the really controlling, overbearing mother.
Yeah.
I feel like are very textbook. You know, it's so interesting when you talk about these sort of examples because a lot of the time, or most of the time, it really is just rooted so deeply in the childhood in those early years. So.
Oh, for sure. And like they were so poor, even though she worked so much that whenever he would grow out of his clothes, they would literally have to get hand-me-downs from his sister. So he would be wearing his sister's clothes.
Oh, toughie.
Yeah, which is also another indicator, or in the, what do they call it? The serial killer soup that like really nurtures that type of violence. Now, when Lottie was super tired from working at the textile mill, and she wanted to discipline her kids, she would have Henry and his sister go pick out their switches and have them whip each other. That's my childhood.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was gonna say that's like my childhood.
I've been through that. Yeah. Diggy, like, yeah.
Go get a switch.
That was normal. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, one time my cousin.
Was that supposed to be like the kind part of that gesture? Like you're gonna get switched, but pick it out. You get to choose.
No, you guys.
It's really like.
Do you like the little red one or the blue one? Go get it for your brother.
It's a little bit of a mind game. It's a little bit of a mind game for sure. But I remember one time my cousin. Man, I miss my cousin, but he was like 9 and he had done some dumb shit at school, got in trouble, and his mom like went and got a switch. And was like,
and you were like, no, let me get you a better one.
No, and like he didn't know that she had it, and then she like told him to get in the shower, like go take a bath, and just whooped his fucking ass. He was naked. She just whooped his ass.
God,
that's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
Oh,
but
man.
That's if you grew up, you know, in a black or brown family, that's everyday life. Like I remember, like my grandpa being like, all right, here it is. And then he'd be like, turn around. And I just remember getting like hit with a switch.
Yeah.
But despite Henry's volatile home life, Henry was pretty popular in high school. He was even elected to the student council and became a cheerleader after his mother wouldn't let him join the football team. Once Henry graduated high school, he became a DJ. And that was pretty short-lived because he was eventually fired for stealing a bunch of CDs. Yeah. And then from there, in 1985, he got married, joined the Navy, and became a crack addict.
The Navy.
Hey. Hey, you know, right into the groove of the 80s, you know? It's all good, whatever.
Where can you get crack on a battleship? I guess people just bring it on.
They're cooking it out, fucking.
I mean, that's just like such a weird thing to hear. Just like it's just like something you don't hear very often. Like oh yeah, my nephew's in Afghanistan. Yep, got hooked on mushrooms. Like I don't know. Just like man, getting hooked on crack in the Navy, tough.
Yeah.
And especially after getting busted for stealing CDs. In 2021, like, I mean, just like looking back, if you were sitting in jail somewhere because you stole CDs in 2021, just like, yikes.
No, if you get busted for stealing CDs in 2021, you deserve to be in jail. Okay? Now, while stationed in Washington, Henry was obviously kind of a bad apple. You know, he started burglarizing homes and businesses in the Seattle metro area to really fund his crack cocaine addiction. And in 1988, Wallace was arrested for breaking into a hardware store, and that following June, pled guilty to second-degree burglary, sentenced to 2 years probation, got out of the Navy, and according to his PO, pretty much blew off every single mandatory meeting.
Wow.
So this man was a true winner.
It sounds like a chaotic couple of years for sure.
Sounds like a crack addict.
Did it say what he was stealing from the hardware store?
I don't know. I mean, copper probably. I don't know. What are crack addict crimes?
Some nails.
Probably a radio.
Maybe?
Still a radio.
Stealing radios, catalytic converters. No offense to all those crack addicts I listen, but we know your crimes. Now, even though he was a burglar, most of the people in Henry's community really thought he was harmless. You know, they thought he was harmless, loving, compassionate, an open person. And this would continue to go on because he would often console his victims' families and attend these people's funerals.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah, it would later turn out that he knew 10 out of the 11 victims that he had killed. You know, most of them trusted him.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Now,
damn.
In early 1990, Henry murdered high school senior Tashonda Bethia in his hometown of Barnwell. This is going to be the only time that he murders outside of East Charlotte. Henry was really attracted to Tashonda. The people of Barnwell would even say that they went on a few dates, but the feelings weren't really mutual. He was a fucking crack addict. You know what I mean? Like, what lady is into someone who's like a hardcore crack addict? And, this really bothered him because he can tell that she just wasn't that into him. And unfortunately, on March 8th, 1990, Tashonda went for a car ride with Henry to a wooded area on the other side of town when he demanded sex. When she refused, he pulled out a gun, sexually assaulted her, and after violating Tashonda, he was afraid that she would, go out, obviously report the crime. So like the coward he was, he executed her.
That's awful.
Yeah, her body was badly decomposed when discovered in the pond by two fishermen a month later. Henry was obviously suspect number one. They even questioned him about her death, but due to lack of evidence, he did get off.
Jesus.
Yeah. The dude's fucked up. And during this time, not only was he questioned for this murder, he was also questioned because he attempted to rape a 16-year-old. So they were like, okay, this guy is fucking bad news. We need to, investigate this shit. But due, to lack of evidence, it eventually went cold. He went off, and that's when he went to East Charlotte.
So it just was like a gradual crescendo. It seems like it was just like a bunch of bad shit happening to this guy that eventually just he fucking fell into all of it and just became the worst possible version of himself.
Oh yeah,
fucking horrible.
And this is the beginning of that escalation. You know what I mean? Like, he first started off stealing CDs, then he became a crack addict and started stealing from businesses and homes, and then now a lot of the reasons why he put these women in these situations was attempted robberies at first.
Right.
And then
right
then and there, that's when he would demand sex, and then from there he would just murder them.
Well, what's so scary, I think, in cases like this, because this happens, I feel like, all the time, too, is that somebody like this motherfucker got a taste of what murder was and got away with it. The fact that he got away with it for a month, and then when they found the body, they still weren't able to piece it together. I mean, I think that kind of shit really emboldens people like that and lets them know that they can do it, and they can give themselves to those really, really powerful, fucked up urges.
For sure. And in November of 1991, Henry relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina, East Charlotte specifically, and that's when he began to work at Taco Bell. And This is where pretty much all of the murders from here happen in East Charlotte.
You're an ex-Marine. You've been charged informally with murder. You're addicted to crack. Yeah, I think this is the perfect. Can you start tomorrow?
No, that's exactly it. That's exactly how they interview people at Taco Bell. Now, in May of 1992, Sharon Nance, a sex worker, was picked up by Henry. Now, this is the only woman that Henry Wallace did not know. Now, he picked her up because he wanted, to use her for her services, which isn't a bad thing. We support sex workers here. Henry refused to pay her, and she fucking started fighting him right then and there on the spot, like some on-site type shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As soon as he said that I'm not paying you, they instantly started throwing hands. Unfortunately, Henry did beat her to death. He did end up overwhelming her, and even the detective who did know her, Detective McFadden, who does become a humongous part of this conversation, said it was hard seeing her, because he knew that she was a tough woman and that she didn't put up with any shit. So to see her that she was beat so badly was very, very difficult for her, because Henry did, just drop her body off at the train tracks, and she was discovered by two workers cleaning the area. So yeah, this was when Henry Wallace really started, I don't want to say getting in his groove, because I feel like that's the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, that sounds weird, but I know what you mean.
Getting into his groove.
He was picking up momentum.
Oh yeah. Now, one thing I will say is with these families, they wasted 0.0 time reporting these women missing. Sharon Nance told her aunt that she was going out with her friends, and when she didn't show up home, she instantly filed a police report. Less than 24 hours. Now, I feel like my parents would definitely be like, hey, I haven't heard from Nick in 24 hours. We are filing a police report.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about my parents.
You really? You guys aren't that confident?
No. They'd be like, what's that something I heard it from Jordan? Well, I talked to him like 2 weeks ago. Boy, body beat the bottom of the ocean all the way. I could have died in Minnesota. They'd find my shit in the Gulf.
Devin, you don't think your parents would report you?
I mean, I think it depends on the circle. I think if I had been expected to be somewhere and then just didn't show up or weren't where I was supposed to be, then that would be suspicious, and maybe in 24 hours. But I definitely, just in a general way, I feel like if I just disappeared, stopped returning people's texts or whatever, if I just fell off of the face of the earth for 24 hours, I don't think necessarily somebody would call the cops.
Oof.
No, yeah, it would take a while. I mean,
really, I feel like my dad would be like, first off, if I didn't answer the second call, he would call Nora. And then y'all would be lucky that he doesn't have your guys' phone number, because he'd be calling y'all too. I don't know. I feel like my dad, I don't know. I feel like he for sure would report me in 24 hours if I was missing.
That's true though. I mean, well, it's probably true, because but you also I know it's like.
Let's just face it.
Yeah,
let's just face it,
you had another brother.
We're alone in the world.
We're alone in the world. But you had another brother,
yeah, true.
And he knows what that's like, to lose a son.
Yeah. Okay. Very true.
And so my I mean, it helped for me in my case. I think it the reason that nobody would ever figure out, or it would take a while, is because I don't say shit to nobody.
What about work?
I just be on my own.
What about work? Because one of the things as well, because it wasn't just their families that was reporting them missing. It was also their managers. They would miss a shift for work, and their managers would instantly call up one of their family members and say, "Hey, this person didn't show up." What do you guys think?
If I missed a shift, I have called in since I started. I'm 28. Since I started working when I was 28 now, just happened. I started working when I was 17. I've called in twice.
So for sure, your work.
Yeah, people would somebody at work would figure out way faster than my family.
What about you, Devin?
The same thing. I didn't really consider when we first started talking about this. I thought that we were talking about.
We were just talking about families at first.
So if that was the case, then yeah, definitely work would probably be the first to notice that I am not where I am supposed to be. I would be counting on work to save my ass if this were to go down.
Oh,
Okay,
wow,
cool.
Well, you're fucked. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, in some of these cases, again, they were reported by the managers, and so many women started disappearing in Charlotte that they had to start a task force specifically to investigate the disappearances. The beginning 90s, the early 90s, was a really, really rough time for people in Charlotte. And not even a month later, after Sharon Nance had been killed in June of 1992, he would find his next victim in Caroline Love. Caroline was walking home from her job at Bojangles when her cousin saw her and gave her a ride home. Now, he says that he watched her go into her apartment, like physically watched her, like, cool, she's safe. Little did he know, Henry was waiting in her apartment. Yep.
That is fucked up and terrifying.
Yes.
Resolvable.
And
How did he get in?
Honestly, I have no idea. They
mean,
really didn't go into detail
He's
about
a burglar. Like,
that. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
If you can break into a hardware store, you can break into somebody's home.
And that is a cheesy Gordita bunch promise. Now, when she came in, he instantly attacked her. He sexually assaulted her and then strangled her to death. He then put her body inside of an orange trash bag and staged the scene as if she just picked up and left. He dumps her body and, like any normal person does, goes to the police with her sister to report a missing person.
sheesh.
This man
Jesus.
literally went with her sister to file a police report saying that she was missing. When Henry fucking did it. Yeah, this takes a special type of psycho to do that. You know what I mean? First off, it takes a special type of psycho to kill somebody, but then to say go with a family member to file a police report, cheese and rice. You gotta be super fucked up.
You got to have a huge ego too. Like just the fact, like I feel like that's the big thing for a lot of these killers is just like the thrill of like knowing that they're just on the verge of getting caught. You know, like so many of those signifiers with this guy of just like somebody who's like almost doing it for like for fun, just for fun.
Oh yeah, this dude's a complete fucking psycho.
They were able to trace him back. They were able to trace the girl that he put in the bag back to him. You know how though?
How?
Because there was 2 fire sauce packets in there too. Who's doing editing this week?
That one's probably not going to stay.
No, that is.
We'll cut that out. Yeah, thanks, Devin.
Now, he did end up returning to the body and removing it from the trash bag, worrying that people would see it because it is a bright orange bag. But he did just like basically throw her body in a shallow ravine, and that case also went cold. So if you're counting at home, it's 3 murders, 3 cold cases.
And 3 black women, correct?
Yep, 3 black women. 3 black working class women were murdered at this time, and every single case, though he knew every single one of them except Sharon Nance, goes cold. One thing I've noticed in the documentary Bad Henry is they keep saying he was an organized killer, you know, implying he was some fucking genius. But then in the same hand, they keep making sure you know that he's a crack addict. This just tells you that he's not a genius. The police are just fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Because in hindsight, even in the documentary, one of the detectives goes, in hindsight, there was a connection. You know what I mean? But, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's right then and there. They all knew him from work. And he was pretty much linked to everyone because of his ties to the community.
So people loved him, essentially. Like, just a classic example of people not being able to put the pieces together because they see one version of some person. It's so weird to think about that because we all do that. We all see somebody or interact with somebody in a kind of superficial way. So we see this like one dimension, but then, you know, it's crazy that that's the case. Also, like, I feel like crack, if you're smoking crack, you're probably pretty organized. I mean, it's like
how do you fit there?
Yeah, like keeping shit together, like very orderly. Those two I don't feel are necessarily.
Have you ever met a
mutually
crack
exclusive.
addict?
Personally,
Yes.
I have not. I have
Okay.
not been a crack addict.
Okay,
yeah, that
okay.
makes more sense.
That
Okay,
makes,
all right.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, okay, all right, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
if
So
I
disregard everything you've heard about that.
But if I were, I think I'd be organized.
Like all the bugs in my skin. Now, February 19th, 1993, Henry really picked the wrong person this time. He strangled Shauna Hawk at her home after first sexually assaulting her and stealing her car. Now, Shauna worked for Taco Bell and Henry was her supervisor. The police found Shauna's car parked at her school with an inch of dust on it, and investigators noticed that the car was completely wiped clean, but the seat was pushed back.
What an idiot.
Yeah, after dusting it and stuff, they didn't find any fingerprints on the inside, on the outside, but the only thing they knew was that Shauna Hawk was only 5'2", and the person who pushed the seat back clearly was not 5'2". So investigators knew they were looking for like somewhat of a large dude. Now, Henry would later attend Shauna's funeral, even consoling her mom, Dee Sumter.
Grimy.
But Dee is probably the baddest fucking person in the documentary that they'll talk about, because she started a support group called MAMO, or Mothers of Murdered Offspring, and they really fucking put a fire under the Charlotte police's ass. They were like, hey, there are way too many women missing. There are way too many women being strangled. We need y'all to fucking like put some actual resources into this and go out there and investigate. Because at the time, even though 1993 and 1994 were some of the worst years in Charlotte, there were only 9 investigators in Charlotte.
Damn.
So was this guy ever so he was a suspect though at that point, correct?
Nope.
Like he hadn't been investigated at all for any of these.
Not at all. He wasn't even on people's radars, because the police asked the families who they thought they would let inside of the house, because one of the things that really tied them all together, besides the strangulations, is all of them had like no sign of forced entry. So clearly they were let in because they were trusted. But every single person that the families had said, none of them connected to other people, or the leads go dry basically. So Henry wasn't on anybody's radar at this point in time, even though more than half of these women worked at Taco Bell. Now, in 1993, he would again talk his way into a house of a former coworker and ex-girlfriend, Audrey Spain. He was so trusted that he even DJ'd at her birthday party. Now, he did attack her. He strangled her by placing a bra and a towel around her neck, and she was found 2 days later under the covers of her bed. The police did note, finally, that there is a pattern going on here. There's the 2 ligatures, whether that is a towel or a bra or a t-shirt or a blanket, and they noticed that none of the women's houses were broken into, and again, at this time it was only 4 murders, 4 suspects, and all of them were cleared, and none of them were Henry Wallace. So again, this guy is completely going off scot-free. His defense is that he's crazy. He says during his trial that none of these women deserve that. Clearly, none of these women deserved it. But he says the reason why he did it was just his mental illness caused him to murder 11 women. Now, on August 10th, 1993, Henry attacked and strangled another woman named Valencia Jumper. She was a friend of his sister's, and at the time of the murder, it wasn't considered a homicide because Henry tried to cover up the scene of the crime by setting her apartment on fire. Now, what he did is he placed a pot of beans on top of the stove, turned it on, and basically let it smoke up and catch a blaze. He would also put rum around her body as accelerant to try to get it to burn. they performed an autopsy after he had admitted to this murder and found that she had no smoke inhalation in her lungs and that she had ligature marks around her neck. So they didn't even investigate at that time. They just said like, oh, she died from, smoke inhalation. That's it. This is not murder or anything.
Case closed.
Exactly. Case closed. And the fucked up part is, once again, Henry would attend her funeral.
Sick.
Yeah, he's a sick fuck. And dude, 1993, 1994, easily the worst years. Anytime I read any article about like this particular time in Charlotte, it was a fucking god awful time to be there. It was like the 1700s for like, you know what I mean? For like natives. It was like completely fucking horrible there. And in September of 1993, he would find his seventh victim. She was Michelle Stinton. She was a really hardworking single mother. She was going to college at the time. She also worked at Taco Bell.
So were these all people working at the same restaurant or at different, like, I'm just curious if these people all came from like under his direct management, in which case I'm like, how the fuck did the police not put this together sooner? Do you know if those were all from the same restaurant or if those were from like different Taco Bells, maybe in the same region? Or
they were all from the same restaurant, all from the same East Charlotte restaurant. Yep.
What?
Every single one of them, and this all still went under the police's radar.
And no one fucking saw that.
Again, it's less than dead. It goes back to the less than dead thing, like they weren't putting in a bunch of resources. And at this time, before Michelle Stanton, they didn't even think they were all connected. They didn't think that they had a serial killer. They didn't think they had a serial killer until the 10th victim. At that point in time, they were like, "Oh, I guess we got a serial killer."
I'm just thinking like all of these like stupid detectives. They're like at Taco Bell, like, why is there nobody working here? That's strange. There's like no why is it taking so long to? Why is the manager just smiling at me and giving me free food here? I don't get it. Where is everybody?
Now,
what the fuck?
Like many victims before, he would also manipulate this person, Michelle. And he brutally attacked her, this time strangling her with a belt and then stabbing her 38 times in front of her oldest son.
Oh, my God.
And
so, wait, what happened with the son?
Nothing. They were too young. She had two sons in the house, and they were too young to give the police any other identification besides this guy hurt my mom.
Damn,
yeah, they were like 3 and 5.
Terrible. Holy shit.
Yeah. Now, and seeing how active he is, I bet y'all are wondering again, how could this go on without any connections? But the police still only saw these as an individual murder, individual homicides, not really trying to connect all of these, even though Michelle Stinton only lived 3 miles from Caroline Love, and Caroline Love lived less than half a mile from Audrey Spain's apartment. Now,
I'm sorry. I feel like this is just like some fucking... I am not a detective, but from everything that I hear, it doesn't take a Columbo to figure this one out. Like, come on. Like, there's just so much evidence. I just feel like 9 detectives on the case. Like, come on.
But
you know what I mean?
Well, we're only talking about one situation. But again, this was 2 really deadly years in Charlotte. So this probably isn't the only murder that they're investigating. Because in the documentary Bad Henry, they show a clip of like a woman talking, like a news reporter saying like, these detectives barely have time to go home and like get rest. They're always getting the call, and that's something that we'll see in this, because Henry in 1994 starts his spree at the beginning of the year. It actually begins in February and it'll end in March of 1994. Now, on February 20th, Vanessa Mack, a 25-year-old single mother, another single mother, Taco Bell employee, was found by a friend of the family, Barbara Rippey. Barbara was one of Vanessa's babysitters, and like clockwork, Barbara would arrive at her house at 6 a.m. to pick up the baby, because she, again, knew that she would be working long hours there at Taco Bell. Approaching the house, she noticed the front door was open, and upon entering, she saw that the only thing in the house that was on was the stove light. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about when you walk into a house and it's just completely dead and the only thing on is the stove and it just like eerily quiet.
And it's like real yellow and it's just like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so she goes in and she's like very confused, calling out for Vanessa. And when she enters the living room, she sees Vanessa's baby sitting on the couch. She has a big old baby grin on her face. You know, she's super happy to see this woman. And in the documentary, it's funny because Barbara says, I remember saying, what the hell are you doing on that couch? Where's your mother? And that's just like such an old like woman thing to say, you know what I mean? It's just so sweet, and you can tell they were like really connected. Well, obviously calling out for Vanessa's name and still not getting a response, she's like very curious. She's like, why is this baby sitting on this couch? What's going on? I know Vanessa's gonna be late. Barbara enters Vanessa's bedroom and finds Vanessa with 2 towels wrapped around her neck. First responders responded immediately. They were on the scene in minutes, and detectives recount that this is the worst attack yet, saying that Vanessa's face, was super bright red from the ligatures being on so tight around her neck. And one thing that detectives did note is that this was caused because he would tighten it really tight, loosen it, and then tighten it again. Do it over and over for hours on end. And detectives knew that this fucking dude is like really ramping up and is really, really fucking dangerous. An autopsy did find that though she wasn't sexually assaulted, he did get the sexual gratification from strangling Vanessa. Now at this point, the police started putting shit together. And this was another working class black woman strangled with no sign of forced entry. Now this time, her purse was clearly rummaged through, and they find that an ATM card was missing. Once they saw that bank card was missing, they tracked down the company. They went to the ATM, and they find that they have a picture of a dude. Now, the picture isn't clear, but they can see that the killer was a black man with a really gold cross earring. But detectives knew that he would strike again, and they wanted to find him before he could. But unfortunately, 3 more women would have to die before that would happen. On March 8th, Betty Jean Bochum and Brandy Henderson were murdered and robbed only hours apart, with Henry stealing Betty's car. Now, a few days after that, he would murder Deborah Slaughter, and like all the other victims, he would, strangle them. Well, March 8th, 1994, Brandy Henderson is on the phone with her cousin when she heard a knock on her door. It was Henry. He asked Brandy if he could use her phone to call her boyfriend, who was at work. However, she mentions that Bernice Woods, her boyfriend, is currently working. Well, Henry knew that.
Boom.
Henry fucking knew that. Henry knew that she was working, and she knew that she would be home alone. He just wanted to get inside the house. As soon as he got inside the house to use the phone and she hung up her call after talking to her cousin, he attacked her. He assaulted her while she was holding her baby. He then strangled her, tried to strangle her son, but her son would end up surviving the attack. He rummaged through the entire apartment like a crackhead does, and then the police
looking for those CDs.
Now the police pinned this as his decline because he stopped being that methodical killer. You know what I mean? He started becoming more reckless. But if you ask me, killing people is pretty reckless. He would completely trash the scene because before, it would seem like nothing happened. Like you would just find these women, everything else would be wiped clean. You wouldn't find a hair or a fingerprint everywhere. Now he is just completely destroying these women's apartments, looking for anything that is of value so he can pawn it and, again, fund his crack addiction. Now, the police did question her boyfriend, asking him who he thought she would let in the house, and he named 3 people: Elijah Rowell, George Burrell, and Henry Wallace. Finally, Henry was named as a person of interest in one of these strangulations. Now, during their research, they would find a picture of Henry, and the first thing that one of the Detective Stansberry's noticed was a gold earring dangling off of his ear, a gold cross earring. So, boom, he was like, okay, we got our guy who's using the ATM card. All they had to do was find Henry Wallace, Little did they know, this would be extremely hard. The police were also tipped off after they put out an APB for Betty's car, and they found it in a shopping center across the street from where the murder had taken place. The police assumed automatically that the car had been wiped clean. Following the procedure, they dusted the prints inside and out, and turns out Henry stopped being as methodical and as clean as he thought he was going to be, and they found a fucking palm print on the back of the car, which matched Henry Louis Wallace.
Oh, Henry. Must have not smoked any crack that day. Just all of his organizational skills just fell right through. If only he had smoked crack that day.
Oh, I need to organize. Let me smoke this crack real quick.
Damn it. If I had just smoked that crack, I would have remembered to clean off my palm prints. But now look at me. I'm just a big fool.
Now, the police were super confident at that point that they had their guy. And now they finally said, we have a fucking serial killer on our hands. So the police scrambled to find Henry. They continue to dig a lot of information, as much information as they absolutely can on Henry. And one thing that they find is that he doesn't have an actual address on file. He doesn't have a place where he lives. You know, he basically couch surfs from place to place, living with friends, families, girlfriends, shit like that. And so it was really, really hard to pin him down. Well, when they convene to like really discuss how they're gonna like track down Henry Louis Wallace, 30 minutes into the meeting, they get a call that another woman had been murdered. This time, it was Deborah Slaughter. Somehow he managed, even though the police had like beefed up the policing around the apartment complex where those other two murders has happened, he was still able to sneak in and kill another person in that apartment complex.
He killed 3 people in the same apartment complex.
Same fucking apartment complex. Yes.
God. Yeah, I tell you what.
Mighty fine police work there,
You need a job at the Charlotte Police Department. Don't worry, you'll get one. I'll hire anybody.
Clearly not hiring any crackheads.
These people are unorganized.
Yeah, so unorganized.
Unmethodical.
Now, Deborah Slaughter was a coworker of his girlfriend's, and she was also found with a towel wrapped around her neck. This time, she had 38 stab wounds to her stomach and to her chest. This was on March 12th. And on March 13th, 1994, Henry Louis Wallace was discovered by detectives a half a mile away from Deborah Slaughter's apartment, hiding in a fucking bathroom. Now, by this time,
I thought you were gonna say like he was found camping outside of the police headquarters with a sign that said, "I did it, I did it." Yeah. And they still let him go. They still couldn't figure it out.
Now, the police at this time, they really only thought that he was involved in a handful of these cases, but they really didn't realize the depth of Henry's crimes. Now in custody, the police say that he was like really arrogant and he stunk so fucking bad because he didn't change his clothes in like a couple days.
Must have not been smoking crack. Yeah, that's it.
Listen, detective, I'm a Taco Bell manager, so I know my rights. All right?
Now, the police interrogated Henry, and when they asked him about the women, almost immediately he admitted to knowing all of the victims. Like one by one, they were asking him how he knew them. Boom, just started nailing them off. And the thing is, the name of the last victim, Deborah Slaughter, had yet to be released by investigators to the public. So when they were like, "Did you know Deborah Slaughter?" Henry was like, "I used to know her." And they were like, "Oh, we fucking got you, you idiot.
You stupid.
Used to know her. We didn't even let anybody know that she was dead." So Henry was cornered. He refused to talk from there until the missing persons detective, Detective Rice, came in the room. Looking up at Detective Rice, Henry said, "Tony, I fucked up." The detective asked, Are you a Christian? And he said, I would like to think I'm a Christian. So they began to pray. And essentially the prayer was, let's leave God out of this room. You know, when we talk about this, God's grace has left you. You know, all the shit that you've done is so fucking horrible, you know, that we're going to leave him out of this room and we're just going to talk about the nitty gritty. Well,
Henry was too much of a coward to speak the names of his victims, so instead he wrote down 10 names.
And the police were like, holy fuck, you killed 10 women? And he was like, actually, I killed 11.
Then he started listening, playing that song and singing that, now you're just somebody that I used to know. He started singing that.
Oh, stop, Devin.
Oh, now Henry Wallace, he would lead law enforcement to where he had put the remains of Caroline Love. So that mystery instantly became solved, even though her remains were skeletal by the time they found him. And then he would later admit to killing high school senior Tashonda Bethia. But Wallace was only tried for 9 murders in 1996, convicted and sentenced to death on January 29th, 1997, and he is currently sitting on death row at Central Prison.
Wow.
Fucking scumbag. The dude was a major scumbag.
Sheesh.
What a fucking loser. Like, I just feel that, like, man, if you're gonna kill 10 people and not even get like a fucking Dateline or 2020 or like, you're gonna just this guy has still remained in the most obscure kind of recesses of serial killer. Then, so
why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because Devin, I know you listen to true crime podcasts. I listen to true crime podcasts. This is the first time we're hearing about the Taco Bell Strangler. Why do you think that is? Because I have a theory.
Well, I think it's a lot of what you had to say, what you were saying earlier. I think that most of these victims were black, and most of like the priority of the police department was probably not centered right away on that, which makes it so much worse for these detectives to sit down with this guy and learn that they had 10 murders to catch up on with. Yeah. I mean, that shit, I think, is just like sort of just like must be the worst possible feeling you could have as a detective. Knowing that you fucked up your job so badly that you allowed one person to end 10 lives.
And, you know, I think that it goes back to the way that this is going to sound like weird and fucked up a little, but like the way that white women fetishize true crime. You know what I mean? Like, you have people who think that Ted Bundy's sexy, or people who think that Jeffrey Dahmer is sexy, and all these fucking weird serial killers. But then you have a black guy who's a serial killer that you never hear about because he's not sexy. You know what I mean? Like, I do think that is because he's black. You know, I think the reason why we don't hear about Henry Louis Wallace or have a bunch of books and documentaries about Henry Louis Wallace is because he's black and because his victims were all black too. You know, so we definitely hit it on that same there, and I really think that these women's stories need to be put out. You know, if you can, watch that Bad Henry documentary. They talk a lot about the victims and the victim advocacy that Dee Sumter had done. You know, check out her website. They do some really great stuff. Even to this day, they're still operating and putting out victim stories, you know, so you can learn about them. And as opposed to seeing, you know, the serial killer's face, which was a great call, Jordan, not putting him as our cover art, because we don't want to see his face, you know, not only because of the really bad connotations that has, but because it's more about the victims and about what they had gone through and really lifting up their story as opposed to talking about some fucking dirtbag who was a crack addict.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk some Bell Nation deep state conspiracy here, because I think it's insane that this is not something that's more regularly talked about. Do you think there is a conscious effort on Taco Bell's part to kind of downplay this, to kind of redirect people away from the moniker of the Taco Bell Strangler?
Oh yeah, they also call him the Charlotte Strangler. It just didn't stick as good as the Taco Bell Strangler, and I think that probably Big Bell had a hand in trying to rebrand him from the Taco Bell Strangler. But I mean, like, I don't know, like the Unabomber is called the Unabomber because of his places, universities and airports. You know what I mean? Like, he's called the Taco Bell Strangler because unfortunately, he killed a shit ton of Taco Bell employees, and he also worked at Taco Bell. You know, you kind of gotta own it at this point. You know.
So
yeah. Do you think they're doing that?
Fuck no. Fuck no. No, and I mean, I think it goes back to our point on the Craven's Box episode about the woman who may have gone paralyzed from eating Taco Bell. They don't want any type of bad publicity. You know what I mean? They want to put themselves far away from it, and if that means stamping down the stories of a couple black women, I think Taco Bell's willing to do it.
So, we actually
allegedly.
It's so crazy because we actually give a little bit more insight to I guess this person a little bit.
For sure.
Can you share, Nick, some of the stories that we got earlier this week?
Oh yes. Okay.
So this is so it's so serendipitous, and I hate to maybe even use that word, but I just like the way. What are the chances?
I love that you use that word.
So we have a coworker. Her name is Sam, and she is in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And when I saw her, I was like, "Hey, we're doing an episode about the Taco Bell Strangler," and she was like, "Holy shit, my family knows the Taco Bell Strangler." And I'm like,
"That's insane."
What? That your family knows the Taco Bell Strangler? She's like, "Yeah, he babysat my brother and helped install a washer and dryer in my grandparents' house." Electrocuted himself and fucking shot himself across the room. I was like, "Oh,
damn.
So you could have stopped the killings right then and there?"
That makes him sound like a burglar from Home Alone.
Yeah, that sounds like some.
Or yeah. I mean, my gosh, that is insane.
But this should just tell you this guy isn't a fucking mastermind.
Right.
You know, this just is all the lack of the Charlotte police like investigative team. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the main reason why this doesn't have some of the news it does, because literally any person hearing this is going to think that the Charlotte Police Department is comprised completely of absolute morons, and
yeah,
that's really bad. And for a lot of reasons. Number one, for the obvious inability to do their job properly.
Yep.
Also, the lack of trust that it puts in the people and in the community, right?
Oh, yeah.
That fear that could like circulate and go crazy. And then possibly maybe motivate people to do things that they wouldn't do because they think that, you know, they might get away with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think that's like the main thing is that these people, this is that piece of the story here, and that these detectives couldn't do their job well enough. And I'm not saying it's easy, because I'm sure it's fucking hard catching people doing these kind of crimes. You need real evidence,
sure.
and I get that, you know. But I mean, man, some of this shit is pretty obvious. And hindsight's 20/20. I get that. Hindsight's 20/20. But it making them look bad doesn't, unless we can completely like start over and get a whole new staff. It doesn't do.
I mean, with
too
9
much
people,
good,
that doesn't seem like it'd be that hard.
Maybe not.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, if you can figure out a way to bust somebody and arrest somebody for stealing CDs, but can't figure out a way to book that same person for 10 murders, something's got to give.
For sure. No, absolutely. And again, I think that just goes back to the larger conversation of systemic racism isn't good for anybody. You know, it's not good for the working class. It's not good for the police because it makes them look like fucking idiots. You know, so put some more time, put some more effort into those people, into those missing women, and show up for work, because your manager will report you if you're missing. And that's the real story here.
Facts.
Show up to work.
So that actually makes me curious. When he was a manager, if somebody that he murdered didn't show up for work the next day, was he the one to report them missing?
I don't know.
Damn, but would he or should he? Depending on like
I bet he would have, because he's a fucking idiot, and he literally
went
with that woman.
Twisted.
Yeah, exactly. He literally went with that woman to report one of his own victims. So it would not surprise me that this dummy would fucking call up a family member and say, "Hey, where'd Shauna Hawk go?" You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That seems like some sick bullshit he would do.
Yeah.
Probably also ask for money for crack.
gotta have my crack. Well, wrapping up here, I think I would like to do a Craven's box with Sam so that we can do an interview and have her share some more. That way, and if you're on the Patreon, you'll be able to get access to that. But Nick, can you bring us home?
Yeah, well, hey, thank you for listening to today's show. This month, again, this is our annual Creepy Gordita Bunch series. And I do want to say we did receive an email from friend of the show, T.W. Warren, that stinky old wizard, T.W. Warren, saying that he has some unreleased manuscripts from Glenn Bell's biopic that he wants to share with us. So I'm really excited to dig into that next episode. So please stay tuned. If you love what we do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and of course, like Jordy always says, leave us a review.
There it is. So I'm signing off. Follow your boy at your boy 112 YABOI 112. Holla at me. And and don't forget Deaky, of course. DKEY by DKEY. That's the guy. Believe that. That's a bar. And you'll hear many more of those if you tune into him. Yeah. Thanks for listening, Devin.
Yeah, thanks for sticking it through this this kind of a different episode, I think. It's really nice to take a break from the comedy and, really talk about something important today. So thanks for taking that journey with us. This is DJ Dill, Devin P. Hanley signing off. Follow me on Instagram, Devin P. Hanley. Like my photos, like just like everything that I do.
like me, like Devin.
Like me. Follow
Yep.
me.
Well, hey, Bell
Follow me.
Nation, stay Baja blessed.
Holla.
I found the creepy Gordita bunch. I found the creepy Gordita bunch. Welcome to the show.
This show is made possible thanks to listeners like you. For more great Cheesy Gordita Bunch content, follow us on social media. And if you'd like to support the show and hear exclusive bonus content, subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Cheesy Gordita Bunch.